Imagine this. You stand at the threshold of a long corridor, its marble floor gleaming beneath flickering lights. At the far end, a door pulses with a golden glow, an invitation to everything you have ever wanted: fulfillment, achievement, the realization of your deepest gifts. Every step you take brings you closer. Yet, with each advance, a strange heaviness presses on your chest. Your heart hammers not from excitement, but from an inexplicable dread. Something unseen tugs you backward, whispering that you do not belong here, that the light is not meant for you. You pause. The corridor seems to lengthen, shadows stretching like claws across your path. In that moment, a chilling truth emerges. The greatest barriers you face are not the locked doors of the world, but the silent saboteur within the voice that doubts, delays, diminishes. And the most disturbing part, it sounds like you. Why is it that, on the edge of possibility, our own minds become the architects of resistance? Why, when called to step into our true potential, do we instead retreat, rationalize, or self-destruct? The paradox is as old as consciousness itself. You are both the jailer and the prisoner, both the dreamer and the one who shatters the dream. Consider how, at the moment of opportunity, your thoughts swarm with hesitation. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. What if I fail? The world may never hear these doubts, but you do over and over. A quiet litany that keeps you small. And sometimes you sabotage not out of fear of failure, but from a hidden terror of success. After all, who are you, truly, when stripped of excuses and exposed to the relentless light of your own greatness? What if you step through that door and discover you are nothing, or worse, that you are everything you feared you could become? It's a contradiction that gnaws at the heart of ambition. You yearn to rise, yet secretly conspire against your own ascent. Why is it self-protection or self-betrayal? Is it the shadow of past wounds, or the echo of a deeper, archetypal drama playing out within every human soul? Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that every missed opportunity, every abandoned dream, every moment you played small was not fate, not circumstance, but the silent workings of a saboteur nested deep within your psyche, a force so familiar it hides in plain sight, shaping your reality with invisible hands. You might think, isn't this just weakness, a lack of willpower? Yet what if the answer is far more complex, more ancient, more universal? What if your inner saboteur is not a flaw to be eradicated, but a riddle to be solved, a paradox that holds the key to your greatest potential? Picture yourself at the crossroads of a decision that could alter your life forever. A new career, a bold relationship, a leap into the unknown. Feel the friction between desire and dread, hope and hesitation. Where does this resistance come from? Whose voice is it really? And most unsettling of all, what if this saboteur is not your enemy, but your most misunderstood teacher? History is littered with the ruins of those who never crossed their own threshold, who lived and died within cages of their own making. Yet, there are also those rare souls who broke free, who unmasked their saboteur and discovered a wellspring of power beneath the sabotage. What did they see that most of us do not? What secret did they unlock in the labyrinth of their own minds? You stand in that corridor now, the golden door still glowing, the saboteur's whispers still echoing at your back. The choice is yours: turn away once again, or risk everything to confront the unseen force that shapes your fate. But before you can step forward, you must ask, what is this hidden saboteur? Where does it come from? And why does it wield such power over your life? The answers are not comfortable. They will not offer simple reassurance. But perhaps, somewhere in the darkness, there is a truth so profound it can shatter the chains you never knew you wore. The journey to unmask the saboteur begins not with certainty, but with the courage to question everything you thought you knew about yourself. Are you ready to step into the unknown, or will you remain, forever, at the threshold, haunted by the possibility of a life unlived? The door awaits, but first, you must turn and face the shadows that guard it. You stand at the edge of that corridor, the golden door shimmering just out of reach, and the shadows thickening behind you. The saboteur's whispers are not the shrill screams of a tyrant, but the soft, persuasive tones of a confidant who has always been there, guiding, warning, restraining. But where did this saboteur come from? Is it merely the sum of childhood wounds, or is its origin woven deeper into the fabric of consciousness itself? Carl Jung, the great cartographer of the soul, spoke of the shadow, the hidden part of ourselves that contains all we refuse to acknowledge. The shadow is not just darkness, but unclaimed potential energy, passion, brilliance that we have disowned and locked away. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The saboteur is the shadow's voice in disguise, cloaked in the language of caution and self-preservation, but driven by forgotten fears and unfulfilled longings. Imagine your earliest memories, those moments when you reached for something forbidden, only to be met with scolding or shame. Each wound became a lesson, each lesson a brick in the wall around your true self. Over time, you became your own warden, internalizing the voices of parents, teachers, society. The saboteur is not born, it is built, brick by brick, generation after generation. It is the psychic heirloom passed down through families, cultures, civilizations. But why? Why would your psyche create a force that stands against your highest good? Here the paradox deepens. To Jung, the psyche is not interested in comfort, but in wholeness. The saboteur is not an enemy, but a protector, albeit a misguided one designed to shield you from pain, rejection, annihilation. It is the ancient guardian at the threshold, demanding you prove your worth before entering the sanctum of your potential. Yet, like all ancient guardians, the saboteur is inflexible, unable to distinguish between real danger and imagined risk. What was once a vital defense in childhood, a way to survive emotional storms, becomes, in adulthood, a prison. The saboteur's warnings grow more insistent as you approach real transformation, for it senses the threat of the unknown. To step into your power is to risk everything it was built to protect. Nietzsche called this struggle the will to power, the ceaseless drive not just for survival, but for transcendence, for becoming who you are. But he also warned of the spirit of gravity, that internal force that pulls us downward, makes us doubt, makes us afraid to soar. Nietzsche wrote, "And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." The saboteur is that abyss, the part of you that both fears and desires its own depths. Schopenhauer saw the will as a blind, insatiable force, always striving, always thwarted. He believed suffering was not accidental, but the very engine of existence. The saboteur, in this view, is the voice of futility, the sense that no matter how hard you try, you will always fall short. It is the echo of a world that punishes hope and rewards resignation. Aldous Huxley, peering into the architecture of the mind, warned that society itself is designed to keep us asleep, docile, compliant. The saboteur is not just a personal phenomenon, it is cultural, systemic. We are taught from birth to doubt ourselves, to seek approval, to obey. The saboteur's whispers are amplified by the chorus of a world terrified of true individuality. To break free is to risk exile, to become a stranger among the sleepwalkers. Jean-Paul Sartre, existentialist and chronicler of anguish, declared that existence precedes essence. You are not born with a fixed nature, you become who you are through your choices. Yet, with this freedom comes unbearable responsibility. The saboteur emerges as a defense against the vertigo of possibility, the terror that you alone must create meaning in a universe that offers none. Better, perhaps, to sabotage yourself than to face the burden of absolute freedom. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the Holocaust and seeker of meaning, saw the saboteur from yet another angle. In a world stripped of certainty, he said, we are driven to find purpose. The saboteur's resistance is the agony of a soul that has not yet found its why, a desperation to avoid the pain of a life unlived, even if it means living half a life. In every age, in every philosophy, the saboteur appears hidden, shape-shifting, profoundly human. Sometimes it is the voice of fear, sometimes of reason, sometimes of resignation, but always, at its core, it is the shadow, the part of you that wants to keep you whole by keeping you small. Look around. The world itself is built on the architecture of the saboteur. Institutions reward conformity. Families punish difference. Lovers and friends, fearing their own shadows, pressure you to dim your light so they can bear their own darkness. The saboteur is not just a private demon, but a collective inheritance. Its roots sink into religion, politics, art, even love. And so, you find yourself trapped in a paradox. To become whole, you must first confront the very force that claims to protect you. To claim your potential, you must risk the annihilation of everything familiar. The saboteur stands at the threshold not because it hates you, but because it fears the unknown more than it fears your suffering. What if everything you believed about your limitations, your laziness, your fear, your self-doubt was only a mask? What if the saboteur is not your true self, but the scared child, the wounded animal, the ancient ancestor whispering caution across the centuries? You feel the weight of this knowledge, the heaviness in your chest. The saboteur is not just an enemy to be slain, but a riddle to be understood. To unmask it, you must descend into your own depths, armed not with swords, but with questions. Are you willing to peer behind the mask? To ask what the saboteur is truly guarding? The stakes are higher than you think, not just for your own life, but for the world you help create by your choices. You stand at the edge of revelation, the shadows deepening, the golden door flickering with promise and peril. The saboteur's grip tightens, sensing your awareness. But now, at last, you begin to see its shape, a silhouette cast by the light of your own becoming. What price have you paid for protection? And what have you lost in the bargain? The answers lie deeper still, in the unseen consequences that ripple through every part of your being. Will you follow them into the dark? You sense it now, the saboteur's shadow curling around your decisions, your ambitions, even the shape of your very identity. Yet, understanding its origins is only the beginning. The true devastation is not in the presence of the saboteur, but in the subtle, relentless consequences of its rule. Like a slow poison, the effects seep quietly into your life, so familiar that you mistake dysfunction for destiny and numbness for safety. Consider the small, daily betrayals, the job you never applied for, the words of love you never spoke, the passion project left to rot on the shelf. You tell yourself these are trivial losses, sacrifices made for practicality or peace. But each one is a thread snipped from the tapestry of your true self. Over time, your world shrinks, your colors fade, and you wake each morning a little less alive. The saboteur is cunning, rarely announcing itself. Instead, it hides behind logical arguments, plausible denials, and cultural scripts. When you hesitate to speak in a meeting, it assures you, don't make a fool of yourself. When you avoid pursuing a dream, it whispers, you're being realistic. When you sabotage a relationship that could have changed your life, it mutters, better safe than sorry. These are not just thoughts, they are the invisible bars of your cage. The tragedy deepens when you realize that the saboteur does not merely prevent your growth. It quietly rewires your brain, neurologically. Each act of self-betrayal strengthens the neural pathways of avoidance and fear. The more you heed the saboteur, the more automatic its grip becomes. Cognitive biases spring up like weeds. Confirmation bias keeps you blind to your own potential. Negativity bias inflates every risk. Status quo bias seduces you to stay small. You become a master at rationalizing your own stagnation, a connoisseur of excuses. But the consequences are not limited to your mind. They seep into your body, your relationships, your very sense of time. Stress accumulates, manifesting as tension, insomnia, chronic fatigue. The body keeps the score, as Bessel van der Kolk wrote, recording the price of every abandoned dream as aches and illnesses. Your relationships suffer, too, not because you are unlovable, but because you have forgotten how to show up as your full self. Intimacy is impossible when you are divided within. Society is complicit in this quiet sabotage. From childhood, you are taught to defer, to conform, to shrink. Schools reward compliance over curiosity. Workplaces value predictability over originality. The media bombards you with images of perfection, stoking your insecurities and training you to measure your worth by impossible standards. The saboteur's voice is amplified by a chorus of cultural conditioning. Don't stand out, don't question, don't dream too big. You internalize these messages until they become indistinguishable from your own thoughts. Can you feel the urgency now? This is not just about missed opportunities, it is about the silent epidemic of unlived lives. The world is filled with people who have quietly accepted the limits imposed by their inner saboteur. They sleepwalk through the years, haunted by the ghosts of who they might have been. The consequences ripple outward, innovation stalls, communities fracture, societies decay. The loss is not just personal, it is collective, civilizational. In the silence of regret, you hear the echoes. What if? Each question is a wound that never quite heals. And yet, the saboteur thrives on your amnesia. your willingness to forget how much you have lost. You distract yourself with comfort, consumption, endless busyness. But in the quiet moments late at night, or in the first light of morning, the truth returns. You are not living your life. You are living the version permitted by your saboteur. Look closer, and you will see how insidious the trap truly is. The saboteur does not simply block your path, it warps your identity. The longer you obey its voice, the more you forget who you really are. You begin to believe that your limitations are natural, your fears are rational, your dreams are childish. Over time, you become a stranger to your own soul, a ghost haunting the corridors of your own mind. And here is the cruelest consequence of all. The saboteur is never satisfied. No amount of caution will make you feel safe. No degree of self-denial will silence its doubts. It is a hunger that grows the more you feed it. The more you obey, the less you trust yourself. The less you trust yourself, the more you seek safety in the familiar, the numbing, the mediocre. It is a downward spiral, a slow erasure of possibility. Yet, even as the saboteur constricts your life, it whispers a final, devastating lie. This is just who you are. It wants you to believe that its voice is your only truth. But somewhere deep inside, a different voice stirs a faint memory of freedom, of courage, of unclaimed greatness. The tension between these voices becomes unbearable, manifesting as anxiety, depression, or a vague sense of emptiness that no achievement can fill. This is the crisis of the modern soul, to sense the vastness within, yet live within narrow walls, to hunger for meaning, yet settle for distraction, to long for connection, yet remain isolated by the prison of your own making. But what if you could wake up? What if you could see the saboteur for what it truly is, not a destiny, but a choice? The urgency is real. For every day you wait, the walls close in a little tighter. The cost is not only your own fulfillment, but the loss to the world of the gifts only you can give. The breakthrough is possible, but it demands something radical, something dangerous. You must confront not only the saboteur, but everything that keeps you comfortable in its embrace. You must risk everything for the chance to become who you truly are. Are you willing to face the unseen consequences, to feel the full weight of what's been lost and what could still be reclaimed? The saboteur's grip is strong, but it is not invincible. There is a way out, a rebellion that begins with the smallest act of defiance. The golden door still glows at the end of the corridor, waiting for you to break the spell. But to step through, you must first declare war on everything that keeps you small. Are you ready to rebel? It begins with a tremor, a flicker of defiance at the edge of your consciousness. After years of obedience to the saboteur's subtle tyranny, you catch yourself in the act, a hesitation, a retreat, a silent surrender. But this time, something is different. This time, you do not turn away from the discomfort. You stare into it. You name it for what it is. And with that act of naming, the rebellion is born. Breaking free is not a gentle process. It is a revolt against the gravity of your own conditioning, a refusal to genuflect before the altar of your limitations. It is, as Nietzsche declared, the transvaluation of all values, the audacious reordering of everything you thought was sacred. The saboteur is not vanquished by force, but by consciousness. You must see it, hear it, understand it, strip it of its disguises until it stands exposed as nothing but a collection of old fears and borrowed beliefs. Jung called this the process of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are, distinct from the expectations of family, society, and even your own ego. It requires a radical honesty, a willingness to confront the shadow and claim the parts of yourself you once abandoned. The rebellion begins with a question. What if every voice that told me no was only afraid of my yes? You start to experiment not with grand gestures, but with small, daily acts of courage. You speak your truth, even when your voice trembles. You dare to want what you want, even if it makes others uncomfortable. You notice when the saboteur tries to drag you back into the safety of the familiar, and instead of obeying, you pause and breathe. You ask, whose fear is this? And let the question hang unanswered until the truth emerges. This is the moment of radical responsibility. No one is coming to save you, not your parents, not your lover, not your culture, not even your heroes. The rebellion must be yours alone, fueled by the fierce recognition that your life is your own. Viktor Frankl, who found meaning even in the horror of the concentration camps, wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, We are challenged to change ourselves. The external world may not yield, but your inner allegiance can shift in an instant. Counterintuitive as it may seem, the first step in breaking free is not to crush the saboteur, but to listen to it with compassion. You recognize that the voice of sabotage is the voice of an old protector, a fragment of self that learned to survive by playing small. You do not banish it, you invite it in, thank it for its service, and gently let it know that you are ready for something more. This is the paradox of transformation. You transcend the saboteur not by violence, but by integration. Historical rebels, those who shattered the boundaries of their time, understood this. Think of Galileo, peering through his telescope, defying the dogmas of church and science alike. His rebellion was not just against authority, but against the inner saboteur whispering, "Do not see what you see." Or consider Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat. In that act, she confronted not only social injustice, but the internalized voices of fear and resignation that echo through centuries of oppression. Even artists and philosophers have staged their own insurrections. James Baldwin, exiled in Paris, wrote, "You have to go the way your blood beats. If you don't live the only life you have, you won't live some other life, you won't live any life at all." The rebellion is always personal before it is collective. It begins in the heart and radiates outward, shattering the illusions that keep entire cultures asleep. You may be tempted to look for a formula, a 5-step plan to liberation, but the truth is messier, more dangerous. The rebellion is not a technique, it is a stance, a refusal to betray your own soul. It is the willingness to act in the presence of fear, to speak in the presence of doubt, to move in the presence of inertia. Courage is not the absence of the saboteur's voice, it is the refusal to be ruled by it. As you begin to rebel, you will meet resistance not just from within, but from without. Friends may urge you to play it safe. Family may fear your transformation. Society may punish your difference. The saboteur, sensing its power wane, may grow more desperate, flooding your mind with images of catastrophe and loss. This is the crucible of freedom, to stand alone, if necessary, in the name of your own becoming. But something miraculous happens as you persist. Each act of defiance rewires your brain, forging new neural pathways of possibility and hope. The saboteur grows quieter, its grip loosens. You begin to taste the sweetness of authenticity, the pleasure of living in alignment with your own values, desires, and gifts. You discover that the door to your potential was never locked. It was only guarded by a ghost. The rebellion is contagious. As you break free, you become a beacon for others still trapped in their own corridors of fear. Your courage gives them permission to question, to dream, to rebel in turn. This is how revolutions are born, not through violence, but through the steady, cumulative force of individuals daring to live their truth. In time, you come to see the saboteur as an ally, a signal that you are on the threshold of growth. Its presence means you are close to something important, something real. Instead of retreating, you lean in. You make a habit of discomfort, a ritual of risk. Each day becomes an opportunity to expand the boundaries of your freedom. The golden door glows brighter now, not as a distant fantasy, but as your birthright. You understand, finally, that the saboteur was never the enemy, only the last test before transformation. To rebel is to remember who you are and to reclaim the possibility of who you might become. Are you ready? The world is not waiting. The rebellion is here, now, in every choice you make. Step forward. The golden door is open. The rebellion is no longer a distant idea. It hums in your bones. You sense the corridor behind you receding, the saboteur's grip dissolved into something softer, almost grateful, a fading guardian, finally relieved of its ancient post. The golden door stands before you, no longer a symbol of unreachable promise, but a mirror, reflecting the full spectrum of your being, the scars and the brilliance, the failures and the wild, untamable hope. You reach for the handle, yet in this final moment, a deeper realization dawns, one that shakes the very foundations of your story. All along, you believed you were locked in a battle for self-mastery, striving to conquer the saboteur and seize the life you desired. But as your fingers brush the door, you see the ultimate paradox. There was never a door. There was never a lock. The corridor, the shadows, even the saboteur, they were all of your own making. This is the final, most haunting truth. The prison was always imaginary. The saboteur only the part of you unwilling to risk the vast. terrifying freedom of being fully alive. The old philosophers hinted at this, but Jung spoke it most clearly. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. To step into your potential is to step into the unknown, to embrace the chaos and possibility of existence without guarantees, without scripts, without the comfort of blaming fate or childhood or circumstance. It is to see that you are, and always have been, the author of your own becoming. What does it mean to accept yourself completely? It is not the shallow affirmation of self-esteem, nor the smug comfort of being enough. It is the willingness to see and forgive the whole of who you are, the dreamer and the doubter, the creator and the destroyer, the lover and the saboteur. To realize, with a shudder, that your greatest enemy was always your most loyal servant, keeping you safe until you were strong enough to risk the world. The final liberation is not the annihilation of the saboteur, but its integration. You gather your scattered selves, the fearful child, the cynical skeptic, the hidden genius, the compassionate witness, and seat them all at the table of your consciousness. You say to each, you belong. You are part of this story. You are welcome here, and in that radical act of inclusion, the war within ends. A new kind of energy floods you one you have always glimpsed in moments of awe, love, or creation. It is the energy of alignment, of living with the grain of your own soul rather than against it. You realize the saboteur was never truly against you. It only wanted to protect you from the unbearable lightness of being, the open-endedness of freedom. Now, with gratitude rather than resentment, you can say, "Thank you. I am ready now." You can rest. In this moment, the world changes, not because circumstances have shifted, but because you have. The lens through which you see your attitude, as Jung called it, reshapes reality itself. Where once you saw obstacles, you now see invitations. Where once you saw proof of limitation, you now see evidence of possibility. The saboteur, when it appears, is not a threat but a signal. Here is where the growth lives. Here is where you must go. This paradigm shift is not just psychological, it is existential. Sartre's words echo, "Freedom is what you do with what's been done to you." You are not doomed to repeat the patterns of your past, nor to live within the stories others wrote for you. You are free, horrifyingly free, to choose again and again who you will be. With that freedom comes not just opportunity, but responsibility to live deliberately, to love fiercely, to create without apology. And yet, the ultimate truth is humbling. No matter how far you travel, the saboteur will return in new forms, with new disguises. Each new threshold will test your courage. Each new dream will summon the old fears. But now you greet these moments not as curses, but as the rhythm of a life fully claimed. The dance of shadow and light is eternal, and it is yours. You walk through the golden door not into paradise, but into the fullness of reality. You see the world as it is, raw and unfinished, and you see yourself mirrored in its struggles. This is the final gift of the journey, the realization that your liberation is bound up with the liberation of others. As Jung wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But with that privilege comes the sacred duty to help others awaken, to light the corridor for those still haunted by their own saboteurs. The cinematic sweep of your life comes into focus. Each act of courage, each risk taken in defiance of the saboteur, becomes a ripple touching lovers, friends, strangers, the unborn generations. You are not merely an individual. You are a link in the vast chain of becoming, a necessary note in the music of human unfolding. And so, as the door dissolves and the corridor floods with morning light, you are left with the only question that matters. What will you do with your freedom? Will you slip back into the comfort of the familiar, or will you step forward, trembling and whole, into the world that awaits your unique gifts? Will you hide your light, or will you risk everything for the chance to illuminate the darkness for yourself and others? The saboteur may whisper, even now, that you are not ready. Smile at it, thank it, and then walk on. The path is yours to make, the potential yours to realize. There are no more doors, only horizons. Let this final truth haunt you, inspire you, unsettle you. You are always free. The only thing left is to claim your freedom, again and again, until your life becomes the answer to the question the saboteur could never ask. Step out, the world is waiting. The story is yours. The light unbearable, beautiful, and utterly real is within you.